Alright, so here's the recipe. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff. Now, I would recommend that everything is produced the day before you want to do it. Not the day of, it's a lot of work. Everything except for the crispy chickpeas and the aloo tikki, the potato patties, are produced the day of. So this video is a little different. Basically, it's going to run through all of the day before production first, and then it's going to give you, at the end of the video, producing the chickpeas and the aloo tikki and putting it all together. But due to the nature of the video, what I've done is I've created chapters such that you can jump to production of a specific part. And all of these things are inherently pretty good. You don't need to make the whole dish to make one of these things, like the Coriander-Mint chutney or whatever. You can make the Coriander-Mint chutney and use it for whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. So if there's any of the recipes here that you like, make the whole dish, make just the recipe, do whatever you want. Also, it's worth noting that you can make more of something, you can make less of it. For things like the chili drizzle and the Coriander-Mint chutney, you don't use the entire portion for the dish unless you want to. It's really up to the person cooking the dish how much of each one of these things are made. But the reality is, for most of these, you're not going to use the entirety. Exceptions are, of course, the yogurt and the tamarind drizzle. All recipes were taken from the Dishoom Cookbook, which I have linked below. Alright, with no further ado, I'm going to get started here. You're going to take your package of butter, ideally unsalted, I believe is the play, not salted, and you're going to put it inside of this pot here, and turn the burner on in advance. You're just going to want to melt the butter down until it's separated. So with ghee, a little bit of browning is okay, not quite brown butter, but a little bit of browning is okay. Whereas with clarified butter, you want no browning, so it's a lot harder to make. Simple as. Just gonna let it melt down, then you're gonna separate it. So our butter's melted, been cooking for a few minutes at this point. Our goal now is, without burning the butter, just to evaporate off all the water that's left over. Once again, if we're making clarified butter, we'd have to do this without browning any of the milk solids, but because the milk solids are being removed, it's perfectly fine to do this. Just keep it at a rolling boil or a low simmer, dealer's choice, up until the point where the bubbling slows completely and turns to foam, and then you can pour it off and strain it. Alright, so at this point, the bubbling has slowed. You can turn off the heat. It's relatively well browned. Just going to pour it through the filter paper. Once again, you can really go nuts with it because you're not keeping any of the milk solids. You don't want to burn it, but it's also not too important. Okay. Alright. Okay, so you can see here, perfectly golden brown, not dark brown. Should have a nice nutty flavor, and it's got no water left in it. So you're just going to let it cool down for a bit. Okay, to make the chili drizzle, which is a subpart of the tamarind drizzle, you're going to start by getting about half of an arbol pepper. You can also use chili flakes if you want. Doesn't really matter. You only want half of it. Just gonna check the weight. Yep, that's about right. Remember, if you don't want it to be so hot, you can use a much smaller pepper here. And then what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to get your chili powder. I'm using Digimerch. You can also use Kashmiri, or you can just use standard chili powder from the store. This is much hotter though. Do keep that in mind. Same goes for the arbol pepper. You're going to do about 0.2 grams of this. See the scale update. It says 0.6, but it's roughly around that. You want to do about 1/12 of a teaspoon. I know it's a very specific measurement, but it is what it is. It's here in my scale. Now I'm going to do about 10 grams of jaggery here. At the store, this might be called panela. Each cube is about 30 grams. It's okay if you go a little over or under. Next, you're going to add about 100 milliliters of sherry vinegar, just under about half a cup. Then you're going to add 1 teaspoon of lime juice. This is where we check if my scale is inaccurate. Well, so much for checking that. Well, it's roughly accurate. Anything that's acidic will boil off. And then lastly, we're going to do 50 grams of dark brown sugar. Should balance out some of the excess vinegar we put in. approximate. It's going to give us an initial mix. Give it a second to dissolve a little bit. Okay, and now the next step is to cook it on medium-high heat for about 15 to 20 minutes. Once it's at about half the volume, you can take it off the heat. I'd advise running the fan because it's a very strong smell. Okay, so at this point, your sauce has reduced by about half, and you can take it off heat. So let me turn the heat off. Now, one thing you want to do before you're done is you want to quickly take a second and toast some coriander. Alright, so you're going to want to take about just under a teaspoon worth of coriander seeds here. You're just going to toast them on heat here until you can smell them. Just getting a little bit more of the liquid off of the chili drizzle here. I'm just going to pour that in. The chili drizzle should now be done. If you want an alternative way of knowing when your chili drizzle is done, you stick a spoon in it. It should coat the spoon, like so. You're going to transfer it to a jar now, or a storage container. Very good. There you go, chili drizzle. Very spicy, very sweet, full of flavor. Alright, so to start, you're going to want to chop up about 17 grams of medjool dates. Make sure there's no pits in them. Okay, that's about one date. You can add a little bit more just to be certain. Okay. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your tamarind paste. Now, if it's without seeds, you're only going to want to use 25 grams. If it's with seeds, you're going to want to use about 50. So just as an FYI, take a look at what you buy. And if it's got sugar in it or other additives, you're going to want to compensate in the recipe for that. And that's 25. Okay. Now you've got your 25 grams of tamarind paste, or 50 if you have it with seeds. You're going to want to take that off the scale, and you're going to want to measure out 175 grams of boiling water or so. Now you can either use a Pyrex like this, or you can use your scale for it. This is an approximate. You're just going to want to cover this up and leave it for about 1 hour to soften. So ahead of time, you're going to add 30 grams of jaggery, or set aside 30 grams of jaggery, or panela, whatever you have access to. Nice, okay, so that's about 30 grams worth of jaggery. I'm going to quickly chop this up a bit. You want it to be soluble, so smaller chunks is better. That's about 30 grams of jaggery. Then you're gonna add a pinch of salt. Okay. Pinch of chili powder, specifically Digimurch. Okay. And then about a third of a teaspoon of ground ginger. Okay. I'm gonna set this aside. Okay, so for one of the toppings for the Tikki Aloo Chaat, you're going to want a sweet yogurt topping. So you're going to want 200 grams of yogurt. You're going to want 30 grams of sugar. It's a fair amount. Ideally, you should use castor sugar, but I'm going to use white because I don't have castor. Oh, just a smidgen too much, my fault. To my coffee. Okay. Next, you're going to get 200 grams of full-fat Greek yogurt. Splendid. There you go. That's the proper amount. Okay. You're going to cover this with aluminum foil and leave it just to allow the sugar to dissolve. Just leave this in the fridge. Okay, so after an hour or so has passed, you're going to want to strain your dates and tamarind through the strainer here. You're going to want to push through as much of it as you can with a wooden spoon through the strainer. so that's about as good as we're gonna get here. Just gonna scrape off the other side. Put that on medium heat. And now you're gonna add all the stuff that you measured previously into the pot here. Make sure to mix it up well, and then it all dissolves. You're gonna cook this for probably about 20 minutes, just until it's become a bit of thick sauce, and everything's dissolved and thickened up. Alright, so you're gonna toast about a 1.5 teaspoons of cumin seeds. Okay, these are brown. Take them off. Alright, we're going to take our cumin seeds and we're going to chop them up very finely. Okay, now that the chutney is done, you're going to want to add about 1/4 teaspoon here of chopped up cumin. Take a second to mix that in. It should be very viscous. You're going to want to make the tamarind drizzle by mixing 4 teaspoons of the chili drizzle with 3 teaspoons of the tamarind chutney. 3 tablespoons is 1 tablespoon, so I'm going to use the tablespoon measure. That should be the perfect amount here. So this is heavily, heavily reduced down. Okay. Just going to set that aside now. Okay, so we will be making coriander-mint chutney. You're going to add the following ingredients to a cup. 2 Thai chilies. These are also known as bird's eye chilies. Going to add 20 grams of mint and coriander, or cilantro, however you want to name it. It's been pre-weighed. If it weighs more, it's because it was washed. Stems for the cilantro is fine. For the mint, it is not. 1 teaspoon of sugar. 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. 25 milliliters of lime juice. Then 25 milliliters of water. Blitz until smooth. Once it's done, transfer it to a small bowl. Delicious. There you go, coriander mint chutney. Okay. You're going to want to start by getting 500 grams of floury potatoes. The most common type you probably have access to is russet, but there's different types. Best bet would be to look online. Okay, that's about 500 grams there. About 479. Yeah, that's enough. Fill a pot with water. Okay. Then start your water on the stove. Okay. Put your potatoes in. They should sit just below the surface of the water. Chuck in a healthy amount of salt. You're not going to be consuming it anyway. And then bring the water to boil with the potatoes in the water. This is very important, because otherwise your potatoes will not cook through properly. Once your potatoes reach a boil, just take the lid off and keep them at a rolling boil until they're fork tender. While that's happening, you can prepare the batter mix for your chickpeas. To start, you're going to want to add about 20 grams of corn flour, and then 20 grams of white flour. Okay, next you're going to add just a little bit of salt, a half a teaspoon of veggie merch chili powder or Kashmiri. And lastly, about 50 mils worth of water. And you're now going to blend this up. If it's still dry, you're going to want to add just a little bit more water. Now you're going to add chickpeas. Pre-rinsed, of course. Okay, now your chickpeas are done, you're just going to put them off to the side. Once potatoes are tender, you can stick your fork in without too much issue. You're going to want to take them off heat and put them into a bowl to cool down. Turn your burner off and let them sit and cool. Okay, so for the chickpeas, you're going to use vegetable oil, such as canola. You're going to want enough to submerge the chickpeas in. Your oil should be about 1 centimeter deep. You're going to start heating that. You're going to want to get to about 180 degrees Celsius. You're going to want to put about 125 grams of ghee in a pot. You'll be using this to heat later. For the potatoes, you're going to want to make sure there's no skins. Just take them off. They should come loose relatively easily. Doesn't matter too much though. Just want to get the majority of it off. That will come off. You can do this by just going along with the with your fingernails or the tips of your fingers. And of course, you're doing this after it's cooled down. Okay, with that, your potato is shredded. Okay, at this point you're going to want to turn on your ghee, get it ready for frying. Okay, you're going to add 12 grams of corn flour. Okay, 15, doesn't matter too much. You're going to add a teaspoon of salt and about half a teaspoon of white pepper. Check your deep frying oil. If it's around 180, 190 degrees Celsius, you can fry your chickpeas in it. You're going to want to use a sieve to lower them in. Once your chickpeas are in, you're going to want to put a lid on them and cook them till they're crispy. You're now going to mix the potato with the spices and salt. Once it's blended well like this, you're going to form 6 patties. Remember to flip it when it turns golden. You're going to want to push down on it so it cracks at the edges. Okay, these are looking about done. You can take them off heat. Okay, you put in the next bat. Final one. And then, to top it off, you're going to take the yogurt mixture you made earlier. Make sure it's mostly covered. Then you're going to take the chickpeas. Just place them on top. Then you're going to do the tamarind drizzle here. And then, to finish it off, you're going to use the mint coriander chutney. Yep. That tastes good.